you. So I will put in the grades for the binder check. You'll see that it, like say, I don't know, you weren't doing so well, but then I put in your really good binder check. You'll see a good increase in your grade. Or the opposite could be true. Like if you didn't have many of your notes or any of your notes, like you'll see it drop your grade because that's the only thing in that project / collaborative assignment category for a while. Now, if you didn't get full points, you can resubmit your binder, but I need to see all the notes again. Like I don't memorize what all my students were individually missing. So should you want to resubmit it, you, anytime I'm not teaching, can show me all your notes again, and I will do the same thing. I will count and see that there's stuff written on them. So if you, like, for example, some kids always say they lost all their notes or already threw them away or left them at home, you can redo them. The papers are here, you can grab them, go home, see what we did in class and write them down. You can also take it on your own paper at home, like lined paper. I don't care, but you need to take notes. That is a life skill. And you need to also be organized, another life skill. So that's why I hold you to that. And also it's a nice cushion for your grade. It literally takes no accuracy at all. When kids are failing, because usually it's more than just a binder check that you're failing. First thing I look at are your binder check scores. And if you're not even wanting to take notes, like how can I help you? If you can't even like pay attention in here and take the bare minimum of notes, how am I supposed to help you be better? Like it starts with just taking notes first and foremost. But yeah, you can resubmit it. Like if you didn't get full points, I'll put a little comment for what the last day you can resubmit it will be. It's usually like 4 weeks. And then that should fix your grade with just you taking notes if you lost points. The study guides, I mentioned this. First two are required, last one's optional. They all are aligned to your test very closely. So like the first two especially. People keep asking me how to get their grade up, or how you can get your grade up rather. Do well on this next test. Literally, it's 150 assessment points. Your quizzes, however well you did on them before, were only 10 assessment points. So do well on this next test and that will bring up your grade tremendously. There should be no surprise as to what's on the test either, because like I said, all I changed were pictures, numbers, like I didn't put the exact word for word question, but it is the same skills. So you even, most of the time we have our study guide days before the test, like the very day before the test. You guys still have the weekend. You guys still have office hours with me today until 3 if you want to come by. Monday, we're just doing a Kahoot. I won't really go over the study guide unless you specifically ask me about a certain question on Monday. Or just do the Kahoot, and then Tuesday you're testing. The tests are not open note. It is basically these two portions in the same hour. So you'll have like 10 online that you do and submit there, and you have like 4 on paper that you write out, just like your study guide. So both will be doing the same hour. And if you're not a fan of time tests, well, then really study. So that way it doesn't take you a whole lot of time to do stuff. And hopefully you finish on time. So yeah, read the slides. Here's like your checklist for what you should do in order of priority. And I will record all my classes today, me going over requests on the study guides. I also have the ones from last year. Because actually unit 1 is not, like the test is not very different from what last year was. So these might help you too. But now, since I finished binder checks, I'll take any requests for what you'd like to see on the screen. So anything that you thought was difficult or that you had to look up maybe, or had to cheat off of, remember you won't be able to cheat on this test. So if you can't do the study guides without having to cheat or look something up, then you should probably ask about it so that you don't have that same question. Right, the request could be from any study guide, anything general. But this time right now it's for. Or if you don't ask and you're confused, then you'll just say you. Also not just gonna like go over the whole thing without you asking for something, like, I'm not gonna waste my time. We have time to engage with it, so what questions? Cadence? Okay, which one? Okay. What number? Okay, so the first study guide, that's 100 points, the one that is not optional, is not shuffled, it's the same questions that everyone has. The other one is shuffled, it's like different practically every time you take it, so that optional one is a really great way to see if you know what's going on, whereas this one, you kind of figure out the answers after the attempts. You know, or get the answers from someone probably, but like I said, it's important you actually know how to do it. So we have the dot plots show the number of hours Jerome and Sarah played video games in a day. And we're selecting all that must be true. So any questions that say select all that must be blank, what does that mean? There can be multiple answers. Sometimes there are select alls and there's just one answer, but you have to still check every single one, and if it's true, you click it. I will tell you right now, on your tests, if you pick a wrong answer, I do deduct half a point. Okay, so only pick the ones that are true. I think some kids think that if they pick them all, like it'll auto mark them correct. I deduct for wrong answers. So only pick the ones that are true. So for this first one, it says the mean and median values. Stop looking at your screen if you like to code. The mean and median values for Jerome's data are about the same. So when are the mean and median about the same? Visually. Yes. When it's symmetric. Would you say Jerome's is symmetric? Would you say Sarah's is symmetric? Okay, I'm seeing some head shakes yes, some no. Jerome's is definitely not symmetric, it's skewed. Sarah's is not perfectly symmetric, but for the most part it is. Okay, so I know that can be confusing to you because all the ones we saw in our notes were perfectly symmetric. However, when it's mostly symmetric, you can also assume that the median and mean are about the same. Because this one doesn't say exactly, this one says about. Make sense? So Jerome's definitely not. Sarah's, you could say they are about the same because it's mostly symmetric. Make sense? You could do that one without doing the math. However, since it is a dot plot, you can also type it into Desmos and then confirm. However, when we did that earlier, I will say Jerome's mean was 1.75. Sorry, I can't see my mouth, so it makes it hard. Okay, I will say, like, when we did do the math earlier, like using technology, we saw that Jerome's was 1.75 for the mean and 1 for the median. And Sarah's median was 3. And her mean was like 3.26. So some people might say, oh, 1.75 is pretty close to 1. Like, I agree, but in like this grand scheme of things, they don't consider these to be about the same because of the shape. Okay, and when it's skewed, they shouldn't be about the same. When it's almost perfectly symmetric, they would consider this about the same. It's only like 0.26 off. Make sense? Okay, so that mathematically proves it if you want that part. Standard deviation is higher than Jerome's. So, and then also Sarah's standard deviation is lower than Jerome's. Obviously, you can't pick both, so they can't both be true. What does standard deviation mean? How spread out it is. Would you say that Sarah's is more or less spread out than Jerome's? Less. More. so that one can be kind of tricky. In that one, you could probably, like, if you were confused on your test too, if it looks about the same to you, then you can verify with your calculator. So here's that review on how to use your graphing calculator, which is enabled in your test, but I would not tell you how to use it during your test. So you would have to remember how. I'll use J for Jerome. It has to be equals bracket, not parentheses, or else it won't tell you anything. I can see that he has 5 zeros, 4 ones, 3 twos, 1 3, 1 4, 1 5, and 1 6. He had 16, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. You always want to make sure that this says however many data points you have. And standard deviation has its own function in here. In my opinion, it doesn't really matter which one you use. But like if you're going to use standard deviation with the P to calculate Jerome's, then use the same one to calculate Sarah's. Like don't use a different one. So Jerome's standard deviation is about 1.8. So now let's check Sarah's. So she has a 0, 2 1s, 3 2s, 5 3s. 4. I think I missed one because I think they're supposed to be 19. So hang on.
You missed 2 3.
Okay. What do you, oh, 2, like I need to add 2 more 3s. Okay. And then I need to put the 7. So yeah, that's why it's important that you always check. Like I knew I had 19 data points because I counted this earlier. And when it wasn't showing in my list, I was like, okay, I didn't type something in. All right, but anyway, standard deviation, same one as this function, but now with an S because I called this data something different. So now if I'm comparing the numerical standard deviations, whose is more spread out, Jerome's or Sarah's? Jerome's, because his is higher. So yeah, it is kind of hard to tell because their standard deviations are so close. For the most part, bell-shaped tends to be less spread out compared to skewed, but you could do the math. Jerome's is more spread out, which means Sarah's standard deviation should be lower. All right, now the median values for both students is about the same. I mentioned before, Jerome's median was 1, Sarah's was 3, so technically not about the same. Okay, so I would not select the one about median being the same because that's just a little too far off. Our numbers only go from like 0 through 8, so that would be a little too far off to consider about. Then it says the mean values for both are about the same. The mean for Jerome's was 1.75, and since I do have it up, I could show you on here. The mean for Jerome's was 1.75. The mean for Sarah's was 3.26, like I said before. A little too far apart to be considered about the same, so don't pick that one either. Then it says if Jerome stayed home sick from school on Tuesday and played 10 hours, this would affect the mean value for him more than the median. So looking at Jerome's dot plot, if I were to extend it to go all the way to 10, then that would mean he has a dot like about over here for this dot plot. Would you consider this a potential outlier probably? Yeah, it's way bigger than the rest of the data. What do outliers affect more, the mean or the median? The mean. And if you think about like how you find mean and median by hand, that makes sense. Because for the mean, that would be the sum of the numbers divided by the number of numbers. Sorry, it's lagging so much. But if you're taking a number that's way bigger or way smaller than the rest of your data, it affects the mean more than the median because you're changing the sum of the numbers more than you are changing the number of numbers that you have. Okay, that would definitely affect the mean more, whereas the median might not even change. And since I already had to type in the data for one of them, I could, since I already still have it here, add a 10 to Jerome's and look at his mean. It changed a lot compared to his median, which didn't change at all. So outliers definitely affect the mean more than the median. So for Jerome, that would be true. And then it says, if Sarah stayed homesick from school on Tuesday and played 10 hours, this would affect the median value for her. So without even doing the math, look at Sarah's. If I added a point way over here, do you think that would affect the median? What's the definition of median? No, like the middle number exactly. I have so many 3s in the middle that the median might not change at all. And if you want to do the math and check for yourself, here's Sarah's data. If I added a 10, her median does not change. So you would not select that one because median is sometimes not affected at all by outliers. Questions on that? And yours might be shuffled on your screen for this one, so look at it, make sure you're not just blindly picking, pick the ones that we just talked about. What other questions do we have from any study guide that we're still confused on? Amy? What number? Yeah, these ones shouldn't be shuffled. If you also need help with number 5, then look at the screen. A grocer thought she needed safer packaging. She counted the number of intact eggs in 24 cartons from the cooler. The dot plot shows that. And we're gonna describe, or we're gonna fill out all these blanks. But first, describe the distribution of the data. The distribution is skewed left, skewed right, roughly symmetric, or uniform. What do you guys think? Skewed left is correct. Definitely skewed. Most of the data is to one side, but to pick the correct type of skew, where do I tell you to look? For the void, and the void is on the left, so we call it left skew. Then it says the median of the intact eggs is, so you have 2 options. You can type this all into Desmos. That probably wouldn't be the option I choose, in my opinion. But you can do that. I would go find it by hand, or this is on my computer screen. Obviously, you can write on your computer screen. I would kind of just like do it mentally until I get my middle number. And if there's 2 in the middle, what do you have to do? So you could find the middle way between those 2, that works, or you average them. So that means adding them together, dividing by 2, since they're the only 2 numbers. So I'm almost there. My median is the average of 11 and 12. What's the average of that? Okay, great. And someone else got that too, right? Like I didn't do a mistake. Okay. Mode. What is mode? We haven't really talked about that. What is it? Outlier. No, mode is different from outlier. What word does mode sound like? Most is what I was looking for. So when you hear the word mode, think most. Mode means most common data point. So which of these is the most common? 12, because it has the highest frequency. You guys know what frequency means, right? It means how often something occurs. So the most occurring one, make sure you're paying attention, you look a little zoned out, is the 12. So my mode is 12. There are blank potential outliers. The options are none or some. So what do you guys think?
So,
Okay, definitely not none. When it's skewed, there's probably some. So there are some potential outliers. Reason it says potential is because there is a formula to determine for sure if it's an outlier, but I don't think you need it for this test. But it's just something good to know, that there is a way to tell for sure, but most of the time you can just guess and it's true. Thank you so much. That's the next two. Now does removing the data point 6 change the IQR? So since this was on your computer, and again, you can't write on your computer, it'd probably be a bit of a pain to find the IQR by hand, although it's not impossible. In this situation, I would probably just type it in and then hit a few buttons. So I think that would be easier, so I'm gonna show you that way. But first, what's the formula for IQR? Q3 minus Q1. That's a formula you guys need to know. So upper quartile minus the lower quartile. So median of your upper half minus median of your lower half. However, like I said, I think in this situation, it might be easier to just use our graphing calculator. And now I can still use J, that's fine. So don't forget, it's letter equals bracket if you want to use your calculator on Desmos. But I have a 6, a 10. I have 10 11s. And then I have 12 12s. And it says I have 24 data points. In this sentence, it said I had 24 data points, so that looks good to me. What can I type in to easily find my IQR? Stats. That's like a little hack. It's not in your menu of functions for you to search. You would have to know that. This unit is called the statistics unit, so maybe that'll help you. But you do stats, parentheses, whatever you named your data over here. I named it J. And I can easily see my Q3 and my Q1. And since IQR is Q3 minus Q1, what's 12 minus 11? So that's what it is when the data point 6 is there. It wants to know if I remove the data point 6, does my IQR change? When I remove it, my Q3 and my Q1 didn't change, so my IQR still shouldn't change. But 12 minus 11 is still 1, so I would say no, it did not change. Okay. Questions, comments, concerns? All right, might have time for 1 or 2 more, depending on how long they are. Emberlyn?
We do number 6.
Yes. Okay, so look at the dot plot and complete the frequency table representing the data. So this left column would be my data itself, like what numbers were used. And frequency would be how often it occurred. It's like your histograms. So fill in the blanks. We're showing that the 5 occurred 3 times. That's what this is telling me. What do you think comes after the 5? Because this one was right next to it, so it looks like it goes in order. That means this one's probably going to be 7. The 6 did occur twice, so that makes sense. The 7 did occur 3 times, also makes sense. How often did the 8 occur? Okay, good. Count them. Yes, 7. And there is 7 there. And how often did the 10 occur? So that's how you read a frequency table. So if they give you a frequency table and they ask you what graph matches, you pick the one that has all the same data and frequency of that data. Does that make sense? Okay, cadence. Number 2 on this one. And remember, guys, I'm recording all my classes. They might ask other questions that you might find valuable. So you could always do that or email me or come to tutoring. But number 2 was about making a box plot. And what you could consider doing, I did teach you how to make a box plot in Desmos. Also, this function we talked about, I wouldn't be able to tell you this on a test, so make sure you remember. It tells you all the 5 numbers you need for a box plot. So that's a really cool, like, little hack. We are gonna do it on here because I think that would be easier than showing you by hand. And it gives me my data right there. So 35, 34. Yeah, I can probably copy and paste right now in Illuminate or in Schoology. It might not let you. So let's just type it in. Okay, I had 10 data points. So this should say 10. Here's my 5 number summary. Wait, you guys are packing up too early. Are you listening? Can you listen? Look at the screen, stop talking, table 4. This is my 5 number summary. I should have a point or like an edge of my box on each of these. So I would start with the median. I think that's easiest. So A is a potential candidate, definitely not B, definitely not C. D is a potential candidate, okay, for my right answer. Between these two, what's different? Well, the box is definitely different. What's this edge of the box? So does it look like it's at 29? Yeah, 28, 29, 30. So yes, 35 would be this edge of the box, Q3. This one looks like my answer. So A for that one, there's multiple parts. So A is the right graph. Then it says about half of the boxes sampled have weights above what weight? Where's my halfway point of my box plot? Okay, 32. You can start packing up now. I know it's time to go. What percent have it above 29 grams? 75%, because the quartile split the data into quarters. No, you could keep working on it all weekend.